Guys, the heavy-duty transporter is available now. It comes with the crossbars and the long laterals, or what you call it. It retails here for about $16.80, and it's available now. The little part will come out at the end of this fiscal year, so it will be compatible to this system. As you can see, the system's all going to connect. We're also coming out with tables that are going to come out early first quarter 2020. Las mesas también van a estar disponibles, va a ser los mismos uprights, the same aluminum bars, and everything's going to be able to dismount and stow away very easy. So keep in mind, if you want 390 pounds of lifting capacity, this is what you need. This is heavy duty. It's costly, but it's very well made, very well designed. If you're already invested in the regular transporting system that Rubi's had for a good 7 years, we added some new features to it. First of all, we changed the suctions to now for texture. So when you see the gray lockdown clips, that means these are the texture suction cups. You can, if you want just to order the suction, that's fine, they're available, but it's a tedious process with how many you want, and honestly, if you order a new one, it will have the new feature on it. We also have the crossbars that come with this, and you can look at those in page 33 on the bottom, and they're colored black, so that if you're already invested in this and you want more stability as you maneuver, you could order just the crossbars. Si ya tienen este sistema de transporter y sienten que no tienen la estabilidad para mover, le ponen las barras que tú usas, que ya es un accesorio. Sí, señor. Oh. Si necesitan las barras para que les dé más soporte, que se sientan más seguros, lo pueden ordenar separado. So, es una cosa que pueden comprarle a este sistema si ya lo tienen. Preguntas sobre los transporters.
Is that only for porcelain or is for any kind of stuff?
Puedes usarlo textured, smooth surface, no importa. El nuevo que existe ahora, porque ha cambiado el modelo y esas prácticas.
Okay.
¿Vale?
Is that a new suction cup you said?
Yes, the gray, this is how you'll know. If you have the black, los flips negros, that's the regular smooth surface.
Yeah, okay.
If you get the ones with the gray, si agarran los que son grises, ese es para textura o smooth surface, no pasa nada. Este es el sistema.
¿Qué peso aguanta?
El regular que le levanta, que vienen siendo
309 pounds?
132 libras, que viene siendo menos de la mitad de aquel.
The one slab will do it, no?
¿Cómo?
One, also main material, one slab will carry.
Este se vende como ustedes aquí en Bonanza venden demasiado, porque funcionan. Para este material,
Sí, pero
que
si
pesa
vas a slab, si vas a estar a slabs,
sí, un slab bien grande,
grande, que es más grueso, más pesado. No porcelana slab, que no pesa tanto como el otro slab, que es el materialmente o el granito.
pues véalo así, si es más de 130 libras, ocupa aquel. Si es menos que ese, con este va a estar bien, no pasa nada.
Podemos usar quizás el grande para el box, ¿no?
Sí, nomás que muchos prefieren tener los dos y ahorita van a ver por qué. Porque ese, para instalar un pedacito de estos y desmontar, no es tan eficiente. Sí. Pero sí, como le digo, depende de sus trabajos. Ustedes entienden que se ocupa la herramienta para esos trabajos.
Claro, es más mejor tener la herramienta, es mejor.
Vale. ¿Otra pregunta, señor?
So this system is also grabbing on the wrap surfaces too?
Sí. Cada suction tiene 300 libras de suction. Pero el sistema todo son 309. Otro sistema que usamos para cortar, que es el slim cutter. Le hemos también agregado el new saw. Aquí lo puede agarrar el saw separado si es que ya tiene el slim cutter. Lo puede comprar aquí en 280, que me parece muy bien.
¿Todo o solo la...?
Si lo quieren kit, quiere todo lo que ve aquí, que lo puse aquí junto, eso le sale 581, que viene con su 2 suctions, su carrito, sus pliers y el little saw. So les conviene comprarlo en kit. It's a great value. So I'll say it in English, you guys. If you invest in the slim cutter and you feel as though you want to go ahead and invest in the little saw, you buy it in the kit, it's a better value. So it's for the full kit, you're looking at $581 here in Bonanza, which is a great price. And of course it has the little clamps, because when you use the saw, you don't want any vibration, because you're gonna be, remember this does miters and it will do plunge effect. Cool little saw. Again, if you invest in this and you need your warranty, you get the standard 2-year warranty, but if you download the Club Rubi app, you get a bonus warranty year. So that's a great thing to have on your phone, because it's the app that gives money back. The more products you buy and invest in Rubi, you will have rewards that will turn into money. So la aplicación de su teléfono que se llama Club Rubi es la aplicación que le da dinero para atrás y le da 1 año más de garantía en todos sus productos. Importadoras, máquinas de agua, no pasa nada.
Incluso si lo compras from Bonanza, ¿entra directamente a la aplicación?
No, usted tiene que hacer el trabajo de registrar. You guys have to do your diligence and register your unit. Once you lock in your information, que meta usted, imprima su información, ese recibo no lo necesita. Usted ya está cubrido por Rubi Direct.
Okay.
¿Sí me entiende? Es un beneficio muy bien, porque a veces los recibos se pierden, yo qué sé. Pero ya va a estar el techo y todo va a estar facturado como debe ser.
Is the app is only on the phone or is on the computer too? Because if you go through the company is basically directing everything through computer, not through the phone.
Well, I just know that Club Rubi is an app, so it's engineered through the app. I don't think you can do it on, maybe you can. I haven't looked at that. I can find out. I can make a phone call after we're done. While the training's going on, I'll get you an answer on that.
Okay.
But it's really beneficial to have it on your phone, because it even guides you through jobs that you're doing and what materials and how much clips or spacers you might need for a job. It's really cool. Yes?
Can you tell us a little do's and don'ts with cutting it and that clamp that you said is for vibration?
Yeah. So basically this clamp here, it slides into this rail, just like, and it locks. It's just like a clamp.
So it locks the rail to the slab?
To the slab. So there's no friction. Now, I'm glad you brought that up, because I also want to let everybody know that the slim cutter itself, to snap just the slim cutter, let's not look at the saw, just itself, you can only cut up to 7 millimeter. If you want to cut anything from 8 to a 15, you will need the slim breaker, which gives you more breaking power. If you're going something thicker up to it, then you need the saw.
So you cut it with the same tool, but you just click it.
Remember, when you use this tool, all you're looking for is a click. You're not trying to break it, you just want to hear the click. Once you get the click, then it basically just folds and breaks on its own. You guys have worked with this material before, you know that all you really need is that snap.
Bernie,
Yes.
we found that many times, if it's bigger than the 3 millimeter that we use for wall tile, like the 5.6 in the Laminum brand, others have 6 millimeter, we still many times jump over to the breaker, or one like it, because many times on something that's 6 millimeter or thicker, when you use the plier, show them that again, we get a little chip at the edge of the tile for some reason, but once we switch over to the breaker, we never have that problem. The other thing that you haven't brought up, I don't know if you were going to, but we only recommend trying to bevel cut a 5.6 millimeter or thicker tile, it's almost impossible to do a 3 millimeter. That's only about an 1/8 inch thick, and it's muy difícil.
Para hacer un miter recomienda que sea un 5 milímetros o más, porque más delgadito es muy difícil y les va a fallar. Y acuérdense que este material es carísimo. One sheet of this thin porcelain retails about $700, $800. So you don't want to mess it up.
And 12 millimeters?
12 millimeter,
But you can still cut it.
you still want to score it with this. This is still your scoring guide. That doesn't change. It's just when you go to snap it, then you need something more powerful.
The other thing, what was your name?
Rami.
¿Cómo?
Rami.
Rami? Bueno. The other thing to remember is today's training is on what we call gauge porcelain tile and gauge porcelain panels, okay? And what the difference is between slab, you know, the thicker stuff that you're used to doing.
I'm talking about porcelain.
Yeah, right, but what I'm getting at is anything that is 7 millimeter or higher is not considered gauge porcelain
Correct.
tile, what
That's
we're
a great
showing
one.
you
Yes.
today. So then, when they get into the thicker stuff, they have different means of installation, because now you're thicker and robust, where here with these thinner panels, it's all about coverage under that tile. If we don't get very good coverage, then we start breaking panels. So I just wanted to note that, you know, you start talking about 12 millimeter, now we're out of the realm of the gauge porcelain panel.
Very well said. Just so you know about your scoring wheel, this is not diamond anymore. We changed it to a titanium. So the durability on here is incredible. You'll be very happy with the durability on this. And not only that, you could use it on any material. It doesn't matter. Texture, polished porcelain, it doesn't matter. You're okay with just this one. So keep that in mind. If you need a replacement, come here at Bonanza and get that. It's called the Extreme. Reference number, I know it by heart, is 1901. It's in the book. It's called the Extreme. So this is a great bit to have a durable scoring.
And please keep in mind, anything that he's going over today, you can buy through Bonanza Trade Supply. You can go stock it and get it just like that.
Okay, we also recommend our red dry drill bits for drilling this material. We also have them in a less expensive. You can also get these here. So these are the drill bits we recommend for this material, in case you want to get those here. Beading block. This is also, you'll see this in use. It's very essential to this workshop and this type of work. You need this, and you'll see it today. If you want individual suction cups, we have them. And Bonanza also has a great selection. If you don't want to go with the Ruby, it's okay to go with the other brand. But we also make them in case you want to stick to the rewards of points in your hat. I think we covered it all, gentlemen. Or we'll be using also our new clip and wedge system, which is compatible to the Romandi. You guys probably are familiar with the Romandi. So ours is compatible. So that means if you still have wedges or clips of Romandi, you could use the Rubi. In Spanish, I'm gonna say. Si ustedes tienen el sistema que se llama Romandi, que es uno como rojo, nuestro sistema funciona el de ellos y el de ellos es el de nosotros. Y el precio es más agresivo. Se ahorran dinero y el producto está mejor. El de nosotros, clean breaking point. Quiere decir que no va a haber falla y se va a quedar en pedacito. Ese es el beneficio de Rubi.
One of the largest challenges with installing super large gauge panel tile is lippage. When you put two panels together, one behind the other, whether it's vertical or horizontal. So a leveling system like the Rubi or others that are offered in the market is a must. And that makes it basically installation perfect. So we like to use the term virtually eliminates lippage. It pretty much eliminates all of it. So again, that is a must when dealing with these super large panel tiles. So
Preguntas, señores? Questions you might have?
About the saw, if
Yes.
we want to do a mighty cut,
Yes, sir.
that has to be a dry cut or wet cut.
This can be used either or, wet or dry. In fact, it has a suction for dust, and then it has the water port, so you can use water.
Yes, sir. I will actually usually use water for that.
I recommend water. I highly recommend use the water.
And keep in mind, this is manufactured so amazing. It has the ability with the water system to use wet, or not using the water system to use dry. But as you know, being a contractor, the most important aspect is the blade you're using to cut. Is it a dry blade or wet blade? And any dry blade can be used wet, but if it's a wet blade, it has to be used wet. So dry blades can be used wet or dry. Sometimes the life increases when using water because heat is the enemy of the blade, so it lasts a little longer. But most important, you have also a wet or dry blade for your application.
I had a call from the engineers in Spain, and they tested the new little saw with the 2-in-1 blade, and it came out. It was a great success. Why? Because this is a 2-in-1 blade. You just cut straight, miter, and use as a grinding blade. So it's very popular. And one of your customers very interested in that.
And what are we costing us?
This is their retail, roughly about $65. It comes in a 4.5 and a 5-inch. So depending on your grinder or your preference, we have it in those two sizes. And then you tear down the diamonds on one side. You can flip it by taking off the 4 screws and using the other side.
And today,
It's very, very efficient.
you guys carry big blades for the slab machines, that's 14 inches?
Yes, we have those available too.
And that particular?
Not in this style, no. We have it in our Viper, which is like the one we're gonna raffle off.
Is there like, the porcelain has been very popular and they want us to fabricate countertops because porcelain, so we need to use the big machines.
Yeah, you could get this in a
At
14.
least 14 to 16 inch blades.
Yes. Yes. You can get this in a
And
14.
blades are
Yes.
important because
You wanted to know on the guide, you wanted to know how long is the extent?
122 inches.
102 inches, 10 feet.
Yeah. So remember these?
Yes, but
disconnects.
basically if I have a machine, so I wanted to use my machine instead of this, I put me on the show I'm talking about. So.
You have a bridge saw? 14
Yeah, I've had a bridge
saw? Okay, and your application is this thin porcelain top. So they have a great blade for it. We also have blades for it as well, our own brand. Highlight for the Rubi, it's an amazing blade. But if that's not easily available, you have other choices too. Just Ruben will help you. Around here, Rudy. Or any other people.
What about Pancho? For the suction cups, do you have the replacement pump?
Yeah.
For replace
Yeah.
anything to get damaged?
Yes, yes. In fact, anything that Ruby makes,
Okay.
we have diagrams for everything.
Okay.
If a screw falls out, there's a part number for that screw.
Okay.
Anything. And my card is here. If you ever, send me an email, hi Bernie, can you help me with the diagram so I can pick the parts that I need to order?
Okay.
We'll help you with that way.
All right.
Okay, my card's here.
You want to talk about inside corner cuts?
Inside corner cuts, like to do, are you guys gonna be doing something like that?
We haven't planned on it, so I'll let you touch on it.
Well. Okay, well, basically, it's making the 4 corners and using the grinder. That's what you're And I'll get some more business for you guys. But we weren't prepared to do that.
Oh, you can talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, what we recommend is to make 4 holes, and then you use the grinder to cut that. Have a starting point and work yourself
What's the
around.
minimum radius you guys recommend for that?
That's a
Because
good
a lot
point.
of things, like we do floors, these are
3/16.
316.
Yeah. So, do I have any concrete guys in here too? Have you ever done work with concrete? So you know how, even if you haven't, you'll probably know what I mean. You know how you have an inside corner with concrete? What always happens on that corner? You always get a crack right there, right? Anytime you have an inside corner. That's because all the stress comes to that corner and then it cracks off of that inside corner. You see it all the time. it's the same with these tiles. So if we create a perfect 90-degree inside corner, then when that panel gets stressed, any stress in the panel goes to the edge of the panel, and then it travels along the edge of that panel until it can, explode into either the subfloor below it or whatever. But if you can't, it's going to all go to the corner, and that's where you're going to get all your energy, and that's where you're going to get a crack, right? So what we do to remedy that, rather than giving it this stopping point, by creating that little radius, when that energy hits the edge of the tile and chases along the edge, it goes right around and along the other edge. So it doesn't create a stress point in the corner of that tile. And just by doing that little procedure of creating a rounded corner, you alleviate that problem altogether. The other thing is, if you can do any of that work close to the area where you're going to install the tile, as opposed to having a workstation. I've seen some guys do a big cutout, and now they're trying to move the tile with a big hole in it, It's a lot easier to get it closer to the location, then do that work. So all you have to do is put it up on the wall or the floor, whatever it might be. So, any other questions there?
No, just wanted to know what was your idea of the minimum corner?
Yeah, every corner, yeah.
I think this 2-in-1 would work really great.
that was
cut out. Because remember, you have that diamond on the plate, helps that issue.
Okay, so how many of you have already installed these gauged porcelain panels? Anybody in here today? How many of you intend on installing these panels? Anybody? Well then, class is over. We don't stop. Kidding. A lot of Ed and I now have been doing these classes for about 5 years. The first time I ever saw a meter by meter panel that was 3 millimeters thick, so again, we're talking about 1/8 of an inch, right? Of course, when I say 3 millimeters to you guys, you immediately know what that looks like in your mind. I had to learn that because I didn't know metrics. But anyway, it was my salesman in Salt Lake City sent me a picture, meter by meter, leaning against the wall at the Salt Lake City International Airport. And I could see the fiberglass, because some of these panels, when they're thinner, have fiberglass on the back, right, to give them strength. Helps hold them together a bit. So there it was, and he said, hey, how do we install these? And I typed back to him, how thick is that? And he said, 3 millimeter. So then I asked Siri, hey Siri, how many inches is 3 millimeter? And she told me, and knew it was about 1/8 of an inch. And you know what I typed next? I said, run away. Because they were putting these panels in the areas, the walkways between the parking terminal and the airport terminal. And these are high usage areas, right? A lot of traffic, a lot of rolling loads. So it was like, man, it was a little scary, very thin tile. So the bottom line here, you guys, if you leave here not learning anything else today, in real estate, there's 3 main things that you need to be concerned about. Does anybody know what any one of those 3 are in real estate? What? Location, 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 right? Well, when it comes to gauged porcelain panels, because of the thinness and the change in their performance characteristics that we have by being so thin, it is coverage, coverage, coverage. So everything we do, the mortar that we've come up with and created, we've got special mortars just for these panels. Ed will talk a little bit about our S3 that we created for them. The tools, the trowel, Bernie, you want to grab a trowel?
The Euro trowel, right?
Yeah.
Try right here.
Any trowel will do. Here's a Rubi trowel. Okay, so they even made special trowels. It's not your standard notch. The idea here, you guys, if we're looking at a video put out by the NTCA, it's a little video on how to set tile properly, right? And they teach us things like always traveling in one direction. The whole swirl thing came from the soft good flooring guys when they were putting down adhesive, because that's how they do it, right? They just zip along that floor. Well, we don't do that with mortar and tile because we want everything in a straight line so that the air can escape from underneath the tile. If we have air trapped, that means we have a void. If we have a void, remember how I was talking about that energy in an inside corner? Same thing, if I have a void underneath the tile where there's no mortar and I drop something heavy on that spot, that energy goes through the tile, and then because it's not attached to anything. Now if I have coverage there, mortar, and then my subfloor, all that energy will go through the tile, through the mortar, and into the subfloor and disperse. Without coverage there, what's your name?
Woodson.
Come on.
Woodson.
Woodson? Okay. Woodson, if I don't have anything there, then that energy explodes in the tile and I break my tile right there. But if I have coverage, all that energy can go through the tile, through the mortar, and into the subfloor. Does that make sense? So anyway, long story short, back to the Salt Lake City International Airport, they put this tile down just like they would any other tile, which means swirls, bad coverage, a lot of voids. Well, the next thing you know, with these suitcases and everything, they were putting large holes in these thin tiles. And you know how they were fixing them? Just ugly gray epoxy. So now you would come, and I come through that airport sometimes weekly, right? Because I travel a lot for work. And it was just so ugly and unsightly. And the sad part was, you guys, you know, as we try to protect and save our industry, and that's why I'm so glad you're all here. You know, we're having a hard time finding educated installers, and it's getting harder and harder, right? The younger generation doesn't want to work with their hands. So we've got to keep things going. And the way to do that is to understand how to do it right. So I appreciate here. That's why I can get excited about what I do. So long story short, right now they're doing millions of dollars worth of improvements at the airport in Salt Lake City. Well, it was all scheduled for this kind of tile, that they got rid of it all because of what happened. Because these guys didn't know how to set the tile properly and get that coverage. So after you guys eat, we're going to show you how, well, so anyway, let me jump back to the trial and error video. What they will show you in there, even if you have a, 3 foot, let's just say a 2 foot by 12 foot tile. Even there, I want to do all my troweling the shortest distance. So across the 12-inch area as opposed to along the 2 foot area. The reason I'm doing that is so the air will escape easier in 12 inches than it will in 24 inches. Now the same comes into play with these big panels. So if I'm putting a full-size panel up here, right? If I was, it'd be about this big as this from here down. Well, all my troweling is going to be this way, right? Because it's the shortest distance for all that air to escape. So, and the reason I have this is because when you set a tile, you set it in, you push it in, you may beat it in a little with a beat-in block or hammer, and then the last thing you do is you move that tile back and forth about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch. And what that does is all those ridges, it knocks them down. So instead of having, say, 50% or 60% coverage, just by moving the tile back and forth, you can get up to 100% coverage, right? As you knock the ridges down. Well, it's kind of hard to move that big old 10.5 foot tile because some of these are 10.5 by 5 foot 3 inches wide. I mean, that's a big tile. And it's a little hard to kneel down and go, there's way too much suction. So we had to create a trowel that did that movement for us, if you will. So when I set the panel, all of these high ridges get pushed down in between the low ridges, and I get that same coverage that I would have if I moved the panel back and forth. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. I see some heads shaking. That means we're getting through. Good. So that's why we have these. And by the way, even if you're not doing these big gauge panels, if you're doing a 12 by 24 inch panel, these are still amazing tools because now you can just set them in and you're going to get a lot better coverage, right? Just by using these. So anyway, now with mortar, and I bring that up because we have an adhesive coming out that I can use for walls only on the back side of the panel. And all you have to do is put the adhesive on the back side of the panel and you're good to go. With the mortar, I put the mortar on the wall and I put it on the tile. Here's why. The requirement for flatness for these panels, and by the way, it's the same as a large format tile. Anybody tell me how big a large format tile is? How many inches?
TCNA standards?
What?
TCNA standards?
Yes.
TCNA standards?
Yeah.
Not that large, like if I,
Industry, it's 15 inches.
it's small.
15 inches on any one. If you're up to 15 inches, it's considered large format. Okay? So these big tiles you're setting every day, 24 by 24s, etc., those are large format. And the requirement for the substrate is 1/8 inch difference in 10 feet. So when you have your big 10-foot straight edge, you need to be able to set that down on the floor or along the wall. Now here's where I get laughter, right? You're gonna go, it's never like that, which is true, but on these big panels, it really matters. Tim was talking about the edge leveling devices. Well, it all starts with how flat your wall or floor is. So the first thing you need to do, and there's some like Arrow, was it Arrow? The place that we did the training we talked about today, the A word? Alpha Tile, sorry. I know they're not too far from here, right? Okay, so we did a big training there, gosh, 4 years ago or so. And they had just done an exterior building. It was beautiful. And the way they got that building so beautiful is they would laser the whole wall, and they knew where it was 1/8 inch high or 1/4 inch low, and they would take it into the general contractor, and I have drawings that he gave me. I said, man, I want to have those in my trainings. And so I take those out, and because of how thorough these guys were, they could walk into a GC and they had the knowledge, and they would say, this wall is way too far out of spec. We need to get it with 8 and 10 feet. And you know what? Because of the laser and the drawing, the guy would go, okay. And you know, so you got to know what you're doing. You got to go in with confidence, because I also hear some guys say, well, I tell them, and they say, oh, I'll just get somebody else if you won't do it. And but if you know what you're talking about, but it's so important because the edge leveling system in and of itself is not made to overcome those deficiencies in the substrate.
So the mortar we're using today is our ultralight mortar S2. So if you guys are familiar, we've got several ultralight mortars. The idea though is that, like Jeff mentioned, these panels are big. The bigger they are, the heavier they are. So if you go to a lightweight mortar, you're going to be putting half the weight on the back of the tile that you normally do with the standard mortar. So in order to handle it, it's a whole lot easier. The other thing we do with this here though too, some of the qualities it's got, it has long open river. Okay, so if I'm troweling, let's say I'm doing a 5 foot by 10 foot panel, I don't want to worry about the mortar skimming over on it, okay? Because you think about it, you're troweling out 50 square feet both on the wall and on the tile. We don't want that mortar to skin over. So this here has properties that are designed to help keep it from skinning over, give you more open time. It has 4-hour hot light. The other thing it does though is that it has what we call wetting out properties, okay? So if you think about it, when you go, like Jeff mentioned, we can't adjust this tile to help those ridges lay down. So we're going to use a trowel, okay, that has the special ridges. But this mortar is also designed so that when we beat it in, it agitates it and it makes it want to basically wet out and lay down. Okay, whereas a standard mortar isn't going to do that. Okay, so again, The bigger the tile, we've got to find other ways to get that full coverage. So that's what this mortar is designed to do. It's going to cost you a little bit more money than a standard mortar, but you're going to get the ability to get a much better bond, much higher bond strengths. The other thing about this too is that the S2 kind of is a ISO or European designation. What it means is this is highly deformable. Okay, this has as much polymer as you can put in it without it being a liquid polymer. Okay, the only step to go higher is to go with the bag and a mat. This here, we're able to give this to you in a dry polymer form. It's going to allow that if there's any movement in the wall or whatever, it's going to take some of that up. All right. The other products here, Jeff talked about surface prep. 8 and 10 feet, 16 and 24 inches. So we've got products that are designed to flatten out your wall. We've got a product called 330 Fast. That's a wall render mortar that you can screed, from all the way down to an 8 on up to 1.25 inches. It dries super fast and get right back on it. We've also got a product we've come out with called Planning Slope RS. It's designed for quick screeding, flatten out a floor, flatten out a wall, and it'll dry super fast and get right on it. So those products that you can get here at Bonanza. Got any other questions about it? Brian can help you out with that. That's what I have.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and jump right into this installation. I first want to let you all know there is, because for the first few years, you guys, there were no specifications on how to do this, right? Well, those committees have come together, industry committees, and they've now come out with A108.19, which is ANSI, American National Standards Institute. And so there is, I just want to let you know, there is a written place where you can order that spec, and it will tell you exactly how you should do this. Now, I only bring that up because if it ever comes to litigation of any kind or anything like that, or finger pointing, that is where they're going to look at whether you did things right, okay? So, but we're going to emulate those specifications in what we do today. You may have seen me, I don't know where that rack went, right there. No, it was really dirty. Anyway, this tile had a yellow look to it. He's pointing, no, that isn't it either. Because this is way too clean. But anyway, Bernie will vouch for me. It turned the whole thing kind of a yellow brown. That's how dirty the back of this tile was. So you got to get all the dirt and grime and kiln dust and whatever else might be on the back of this tile first. So we always clean the panel. If I have a porous substrate like this backboard wants a drink really bad. So I gave it a drink, two runs with the sponge. A garden sprayer, pump up sprayer comes in really handy. What that does, you guys, is it makes it so your backboard isn't sucking all the water out of your mortar. Because the faster that happens, the weaker your mortar becomes. Okay, it's just like concrete. If you want good, strong concrete, you got to keep the moisture in there as long as you can. Okay? So, now Ed is using the flat side of the trowel, if I may. That's why every notch trowel has a flat side. He is now doing what we call burning the mortar in. You can hear that noise, right? That scraping noise telling me that I'm getting positive contact with the mortar through the back of the tile. If this immediately go to the notch side, I may not have that good bond, okay? That's why we do it. Now, he is adding enough material, and he's using the measuring cup side of this trowel. All these notches do, you guys, it measures out the equal amount of mortar across the back of this tile. Now, Tim was talking about lippage. So there's a couple of things that you have to consider with these big tiles that you may not always think about with small tiles. First off is the consistency of my mortar. I need it to be the same in every bucket. Just imagine if you were going to have one group of installers over here and one over here, and this guy likes his mortar a little bit looser, and that guy likes it a little bit stiffer. Now imagine too, if one guy, when he puts his mortar on, he has an angle like this, and what if the other guy likes his trowel laying down low? I'm going to be putting on less mortar the lower the angle of this trowel is. If I have a thick batch and a thin batch, my tile's going to set a lot lower than the thinner, looser batch. I'm going to have all kinds of difficulty trying to line those edges of the tile, right? So consistency in the batch itself, same amount of water, have the same guy mixing every time, and then get your guys together and say, okay, are we going to hold this at a 45? Or are we going to hold it up a little higher? But we all need to be putting the same amount of mortar on the back of each tile so that they'll line up. Okay? Makes sense? Now, Ed, because he has short arms, not as short as mine, but some of these tiles, and by the way, this one's only 49 and 3/8 inches wide. There are some that are 5 foot 3 inches wide, and there is no way I can reach across there. So what we can do is we find the center line, and we can start at the center and pull that mortar out to the edges. Now, one big mistake that we have, somebody goes, oh, look at all those stalactites hanging there. I'm going to clean those off. Well, that's a no-no, and the reason it is because if I clean this edge, I'm going to close up all these ridges, so now my air is not going to be able to escape. Okay, I want those ridges open. So just leave it like that. Just let it hang, and it's all good. Hang loose. So now, on the wall or the floor, you have to do one full pull. Okay, you cannot have a center line. Here's why. The center line on this tile is never going to match up with the center line on your wall or floor. Trust me, a lot of times that center line starts in the middle and it either drops low or it goes high. And then if these two center lines don't match up, if I have my wall center line here and my tile center line here, all that air in the middle, because these are closed off, is going to trap air. Okay? So remember, substrate, which is the floor of the wall, I got to do a full long pull, which is possible. Here, I can have a spine, and I can go from both sides. Make sense? Now, when you set these tiles, it's important to imagine in your mind that you're trying to set the center first, right here, and push all the air to the edges. So, the biggest mistake most guys will make, especially if they have a ledger like this one on the bottom, they want to set that ledger in first. They want to put the bottom of the tile in on the edge. What's going to happen, Alex, if I set this tile in on the edge first?
All the air that
I'm going to seal off all my air channels. So the idea is to get that panel perfectly parallel to the wall, right? And set, remember, in your mind, imagine trying to set the center of the tile first. It's impossible, but that's the way you got to think. That way you get everything setting at the same time, and now my air can move out through all those channels, okay?
Also, guys, when you cut these thin porcelain slabs, you remember they're very sharp, and so you got to make sure you wear gloves and safety goggles.
Absolutely. Now this is a 5.6 millimeter thickness here. I have thinner panels. When you're working with the 3 millimeter, when you're troweling, it's a good idea to support this corner. I have seen guys literally bust these corners off.
Right. Also, on the upright side of the tile, which is the sides are to be facing, you want to make sure when you sand this, sand in a downwards motion. Because if you go this way, you'll damage it, you'll chip it.
Right.
So you always want to go down. Down. Cut yourself.
Now this one, the back side's up, so if I happen to be sanding this, I would actually sand it off this way, right? And the reason he's talking about sanding up like this instead of just running it along, if you just run it along linear like this, right, you start to wear these pads out. But if all you do is take a quick, well, I can do it over here. So if I take a quick motion like this, you guys, that's all that takes, right? And then I save the longevity of my sponge. Okay. These are great wet, by the way, so you can dip them in your bucket of water and it'll give them a longer lifetime. Do you notice how straight these lines are? Because if you get them curved, then again, you're going to cross lines here. So we like things nice and straight. Again, to get the air out. If we can get the air out, we get rid of the voids. And again, what's it all about in these tiles, not location?
Coverage, coverage, coverage.
Thank you. My job is done here. Thank you. Okay. Ready? Okay. They've got some horseshoe spacers at the bottom here. Ed is going to be the key man trying to line up the center. They're going to bring it in. When they get close, they're going to try to get that panel perfectly parallel to the wall, about an inch away. And then once they're an inch away, I'll come up and set the center. Okay? So look at the whole panel, top to bottom. Top to bottom. Look at it, bring it in, nice. Okay, come down a little bit, come down, go ahead. You on your line? Okay, bring it in. Now, you got your tamper. This is Bernie's tamper. It's a little bit weighted. What we'll do here now is we'll just, remember, we've got that center spine that we're going to try to set first. I got a pivoting wall because we got a high spot right here in the floor. Okay. Now we can go ahead and remove our transport. Do you call them sliders? What, just transport? Easy trans, okay. That's something totally different. Okay, so now I've got my center set. Now, because I've got another panel that's going to go right here, I don't want to set this edge yet. If you learn that if you've got another panel coming in, set those two edges together, you can resolve a lot of lippage issues, right? Because if all those things I told you to do, like getting the same consistency, getting the same amount, don't happen, well, if you set this one and it sets low, and then come over here and the guy makes it a little stiff, got a little too much on, it's a real bear to try to line those up, okay? So, from here, remember, I'm trying to remove air, right, Alex? So, one thing that happens here, I've already noticed, I'm really far out here on the bottom. I didn't get this edge in all the way, so I have to be really careful when I come down here. In fact, Ed, will you grab me a single cup, or the single cup's better?
Like a suction?
Yeah, suction cup. Yeah, see, so put that up. Just a little. Okay, let's get it just a hair. Okay, same thing here. Now the reason I'm getting the cup, you guys, if you come in, because I know these are pretty light, but I've seen where the guy just hits it and he'll chip. Just lift that up ever so slightly. Okay, I'm just going to make sure it's in. There we go. Okay, so the ridge is still intact. Now we're going to go ahead and we'll set this panel. So I started here, right? So now I'm only going to move as wide as this is. Now if this was on the floor, I would actually step up onto the panel with my feet and I would walk down that center line And once I got the center line all done, I would then, as wide as my feet are, move out to the edge of that panel. I'd step back to the center, and I'd do the same here, right? Just as wide as my foot is at a time. Then I would go ahead, turn around, I'd do the whole thing that way, but when I got to the edge, I would stop here, because I don't want to set that edge yet, right? So I use my feet. On the wall, I use this hamper. I also, Ed, if you'll get, he's already on, look at that. He's going to get the oscillating.
Jeff, but a question.
Yeah.
I believe the thin porcelain is just for walls, or am I wrong?
Right, no. 3 millimeters is for wall only. The industry states that you need to be at least 5.5 millimeters or thicker to go on the floor, okay? So this could go on the floor. All right, so then I come down. Yeah, thanks for holding that. Then I come up. Now notice how I'm using the back as a hinge, because if you get a guy coming in here, there's a chance he could, you know, put a hole in it. So I always like to have that hinge, you know, into it here. You see, I can see a bubble or two bubbling up. The air's coming out.
Yeah.
Ed said he can feel the air coming
Oh,
out.
that was me.
Oh, that's Bernie. It's a pizza.
Vegetarian.
So you get the idea. We're moving that air out, moving it down. You can see the mortar coming up to the edge here. Now I'm going to stop there. Yeah, I got this wall that's usually not moving around on me. Okay, so that's that for now. Now go ahead, if you guys would, and grab the other. While they're getting that, this mortar is so loose that if I use a little by the way, this is not my choice. It works well on the road because it's battery operated. I never know where I'm going to be doing these trainings. But what I'll do now, the most crucial area for coverage is corners and edges. Okay? So now, I'll go ahead. See the mortar coming out a little bit. I don't want too much. Any questions while they're doing the next one?
You said that that's not your tool of choice. Is a corded version of that your choice? Typically, where you have like.
Okay, my tool of choice. Do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Well, you don't have one, so, right?
We're coming out with ours 2020.
Okay. In concrete construction, we have what they call 3-cycle vibrators, right? These are vibrators that run on a different electrical cycle. It's very deep. So, where the buzz of that is like this, the vibrator I'm talking about is like this, right? It really thumps it. And really can spread that mortar. The only way to truly know what kind of coverage you've got is to wait till the next day, then pull the panel off. If you pulled it off right now, there's so much vacuum that the mortar just moves behind the panel when you go to pull it off. So you have to wait a day, pull it off, and see what you got, right? That's great if you're practicing. But anyway, my vibrator of choice is from Mapei. You just look It looks like a home plate in baseball, right? It's shaped like this. It has 4 handles on it. I used it the first time at a class in Denver, and by far, it gave us huge coverage on the wall. Floors are easy, because I can get this big machine on that floor, right? And I can lock it in, and I can get coverage really easy on the floor. But on the wall, even feeding that as hard as you can, it's very difficult to get good coverage. It really is. Go ahead.
So I know about 3 cycle, electricity. You need a generator, 3 cycle.
No. I was just referring to concrete. This is actually just a 110.
Oh, okay.
You're good to go. But it gives that deep thump that you don't get with these other vibration devices.
What about if we need to add some more?
If you what?
We need to add some more things to make it.
No, his question was, what if we had to add more thin set? That's why we make sure the wall's flat. And the floor's flat. That's why we make sure we're getting the same. Here's the thing, you guys. When you're done, you will end up, if you're doing it right, you will end up, once you compress that tile, with about 3/16 mud bed or mortar bed. Now think about it. What was our surface prep requirement? 8 10. Right? So I can have a discrepancy in that floor of 1/8 inch. Well, if I'm making a 3/16 bed, I can overcome any 1/8 inch problem that I might have on that floor. That is why we're doing both the wall and the floor. So because, again, the lippage becomes such an issue with these big panels if I don't give it a little bit thicker bed than I normally would for a tile. Okay? Because you don't want to be fighting that. When you have flat floors and walls, when you get the same consistency, when you get the same amount, it's a dream. It's like boom, 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 everything's falling together. But when you don't, because I did have one time, and the guy from Crossville, when I went to the training out there, taught me that there was an edge that was low. And I'm like, how am I going to get this fixed? He said, if you've only got little spots, then you can take that suction cup, and just by pulling it out, it literally pulls mortar under because of that vacuum I was talking about. So you can make small adjustments, but I'm telling you, you won't need to do all those other things. So the other problem I'm going to throw out there, the edge leveling systems, you guys, they're not to overcome bad surface pressure. They're to hold the tile in place once everything's done, once everything's nice and flat. Then we lock those down just to hold them in place overnight while the mortar dries, okay? But it's certainly not, especially on 3mm. The 3mm is so thin. I have looked down walls with 3mm on it, and they have sucked in those devices so tight that the edges pull in. So you look down the wall and you see boom, 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 dive, all the joints because they shrink those down so tight. So you really don't have that issue with the 5.6, but the 3mm you can. It'll bend them right in.
Surface. That's what it is.
Set the stage, and everything else will put on a great show.
You know they call it this much. They also call it the Euro.
What I'm doing is getting my trowel more than anything. Getting it loaded. Everything looks good.
What calls that? About 8 years each job. Need to mow it.
Like I said, we're marrying together with this side too.
So, I have excess. I always want the trowel loaded to make the ridge, right? But this back edge here, I don't want too loaded or you leave a snail trail, for lack of a better word, if you know what I mean. So I take that little bit off. Usually I'll just rub it right here on the corner. Now when I pull, okay? All right, you guys set?
Let's do a video, a picture of this. Did someone take a side picture
What?
of it? I want to do maybe a video.
What are we missing? We were just talking about them.
Still shot.
Help with the edge. Help with the edge. So now, after we put the mortar on next to it, is when we're going to put our edge leveling system in. So now this is 2 to 3 inches from the corners, because if we get too close to the corners and clamp those babies down, you can bust the corner. 2 to 3 inches, and then about every 11 or 12 inches. I just usually use my trowel kind of as my spacing device.
On the leveling system is also giving you the size of the ground that you're supposed to have.
The size of what?
Of the ground.
No.
Technically not.
Yeah.
The
So,
same thing, use it for the thickness of your.
No.
we don't want to. The reason why is when you go to bust the leveling clip off, okay, if the tiles are butted up to it, especially if you're stacking, you run the potential of either that clip is not breaking off below the surface, or else you could potentially chip the edge of the tile. So you always want to use a spacer so you're not stacking right on top
So
of
you're a
it.
little wider than the stem of the edge leveling system for those reasons. You'll get the next day a guy kicking them off or knocking them off, and every once in a while they'll chip tile because they're squeezing the spacer too
So what's
tight.
the minimum spacer?
Well, these are generally 16, so you're gonna have to find something a little wider than that. And in that spec that I was talking about, it covers that. It says never use the stem of the edge leveling device as your spacer.
So then, I mean, but you can use this leveling system and put a spacer, an additional.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Which is what we'll do today to show you. So got the spacers in. He's got one over there, one here.
Bernie, your the spacers for the are they what per second?
These are Bernies, these are Rubies.
1.8, 1.3.
Jeffrey.
Okay, let's get that one up.
Let's go, guys.
I'll throw a spacer in when you come up.
Wedges or else
So start from that side and come into this space. That'll be your guide, so let Brian guide you. Get it parallel, watch that top, sticking in. Yeah, get up on that ledger, there you go, there you go, there you go, up on there. Get it in, Ed. Come in, set that bottom in deeper. Lift it up, come in deeper, there you go. You know, it almost helps to have the coach or whatever you want to call it, because it's hard to see when you're on top of it, you know? I know that's not always possible. Yep, right there. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we'll shim it here. Let's go ahead. Pull this bottom off. Pull the bottom rail off. So we're a little wider at the top. So we're going to make that adjustment while we still have our trans on, our easy trans, right? So give me that wedge. You got that wedge spacer? No, I want the wedge.
It's in the bucket. It's in the bucket.
Right there. Oh, okay. I thought you had some wedge.
These are right.
Okay. This is a smaller spacer wedge. How we look? Yeah. Okay, you get the idea. Use a wedge, obviously adjust that. We're real close here. So, center is set enough. I look good on the ledger here. So go ahead, Brian, let's pull this. One more cup right here. There you go. Got it? Okay. So now, we're about done time-wise.
Oh, you look good.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, good. So, yeah, thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead. Doing good right now. Set in the couch. Show's over. Cue the fat lady.
Your back lit beautifully.
Okay, so now is where I'm going to get my Okay, so here is where I'm going to come up and see where I'm at. I'm high here, right? So truthfully, if I was on the floor, I would use my feet to adjust that, not these edge leveling devices. I don't want to sit and dip in and have to have one super tight and one looser and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to come over here. Make some of these adjustments. Really close now. So now that I'm close, I'm going to use this to make sure I have mortar at this edge. So, it is very key that you do have some form of vibration, because that base underneath that tile has to have mortar completely around it. That is going to be a key area that you could have a void. So by doing this, it really makes that mortar flow and it loosens it up so that I can move it around, in and around those bases. So once you're to that point, you would clean out your joint. Now this is why it is critical to have something that I can remove, like this wedge. I can't remove these, right? Okay. Or any type, because in the beginning, the caps, some of the caps wouldn't come off. They were like a zip strip, one way only, right? So now with this removed, I usually use like a toothbrush or a small brush, clean this out, pull these all out, then I go ahead and I lock them back in so that nothing's going to move overnight. But it's important to get that out now as opposed to tomorrow, and you need to clean that joint completely out. The big no-no is a guy will go, oh, look, I have mortar right here. I need to clean right here. So what do you think he does? What? You got it. He's going to slide that down. Well, what happens if I slide this base down? What happens underneath the tiles? I just moved all my mortar. I just took it and I pushed it all down here, and now I have no mortar under this edge. So you gotta leave these where they stand, right? And then clean them out, and then lock these back in, and you're good to go. Any questions? There are limitations to these tiles. For example, this particular laminate tile, they do not want any floor installations where you're going to have metal wheeled products. No metal wheels. That's the toughest service level to accommodate. So in the TCNA handbook, you have service levels, right? Help me out. We start at residential, and then we go to light commercial, heavy commercial, and extra heavy. The way they determine those service levels is with the Robinson floor tester. It's got 3 wheels on it. They start with soft rubber wheels, and they put this tile system together, whether it's the system they're going to use at the mall or wherever you might be doing your installation. They set a system up just like it, and they run these wheels over it. This little carriage is weighted, and they put more and more weight, and they go through 3 or 4 cycles with the soft wheels. Then they move up to hard rubber wheels. Then they move up to metal wheels. And if it can withstand the metal wheels, which these do not, that's why no heavy commercial, right? So you guys got to be the judges of if a tile's appropriate. The best way is to call your manufacturer and say, hey, this is the job. Are we good with this particular tile? Okay? Any other questions? But you get the idea on the installation, right? We're making straight lines. We're starting in the center on the panels. We're doing full pulls on the walls and floors. There are some pieces of equipment, they call them dog bones, that you can lean on when you have to do a floor, kind of support you out over that mortar, because it's tough to pull it all. Or, now that they have them 5 foot 3 inches wide, I have to just do a little at a time, and I'll get out on the dry edge of that, and I'll run it along. So that's how I overcome it. A guy like you, Alex, might be able to make the reach, you know. I can't, so. But anyway, that's the idea, and that's how we get that good coverage, by using the right mortar, something nice and loose. And that doesn't mean take my Ultraflex 2 and add more water to make it loose. It means get the right material that's got the right products in it to flow over the back of that tile. Use the right trowels, whether they're dirty or not, right? Self-collapsing ridges, and then you said it many times, what's most important? Surface prep. Get that surface prep, that'll make your job easy. So, I appreciate it, you guys. Thanks for coming, thanks for spending the time. It's going to be well worth the money.